All right. Desperate times, they say, require desperate measures, which petrol subsidy removal brought upon Nigeria. But President Bola Tinubu said the federal government has saved more than 1 trillion naira since removal of subsidy 2 months ago. President Tinubu, who addressed Nigerians on Monday, approved buses for students of tertiary institutions. The president also said 100 billion naira will be spent to acquire 3,000 units of the 20-seater compressed natural gas buses for transporters across Nigeria and rejected arbitrary increase of fees by federal schools. Let's hear from the president.
Part of our program is to roll out buses across state and local government for mass transit at a much more affordable rate. We have made provision to invest 100 billion between now and March 2024 to acquire minimum of 3,000 units of 20-seater CNG fuel buses. These buses will be shared to major transportation companies in the state using the intensity of travel per capita. Participating transport companies will be able to access credit under the facility at a maximum per annum 9% interest rate with 60 months repayment period. I plead with you, please have faith in our ability to deliver and in our concern for your well-being. We will get out of this turbulence, and due to the measures we have taken, Nigeria will be better equipped and able to take advantage of the future that awaits her. And in a little over 2 months, we have saved over 1 trillion naira that would have been squandered on the unproductive fuel subsidy, which only benefited smugglers and fraudsters. That money will now be used more directly and more beneficially for you and your families. For example, we shall fulfill our promise to make education more affordable to all and provide loans to higher education students who may need them. No Nigerian student will have to abandon higher education because of lack of money. Our commitment is to promote the greatest good for the greatest number of our people. On principle, we shall never falter.
Jide, he said he's not going to govern over us. We shouted about the 8,000 naira palliative to families and everything.
12 million families.
You know, families, and he actually reversed
He changed his mind.
Yes.
Now,
Now,
mark of a good leader.
Nigerians were saying the last administration that anytime the president doesn't not communicate, he doesn't talk to us. Now, in the height of this hardship, Bola Tinubu came yesterday, and that speech was, I don't know. For me, I was rest assured that, look, this person knows what he's doing.
Of course he does, and as I've said before, one marked difference between him and the immediate past president is that, unlike the immediate past president, he is very much concerned about public perception. And because he's very much concerned about public perception, whatever action he takes that suggests that he does not want the masses to breathe, he is prepared to take a second look at that policy and reverse it if he's convinced that it is not in the best interest of the... Now you've seen what they are going to do with 125 billion set aside as conditional grant for MSMEs. 1,500 very small businesses will be given 50,000 across 774 local government areas. 100,000 MSMEs will have access to 500,000 and 1 million naira loan with 9% interest repayable within 36 months. We suggested something like this earlier, and we said, look, if you do this, what it means is that those small companies will be able to hire a minimum of 3 persons. And that way, you're also reflating the economy.
Look at
you are getting the economy
small.
To work. This 50,000, it could be people doing meshai.
Yes, sir.
You know, all those people
Selling pure water.
selling
Pure water, corn.
tea. Those roadside tea sellers. You know, they too, their businesses will boom. And ultimately, that will jack up our gross domestic product, because the president says he wants to jack up the gross domestic product. Look at the efforts that he is making in the area of agriculture, for example. He said government will invest 50 billion each to cultivate 150,000 hectares of rice and maize. 50 billion each will be invested in cultivating 100,000 hectares of cassava and wheat. Agriculture is the biggest contributor to the Nigerian GDP. It does much better by far than even telecoms and the rest. So he's focusing on that. That is focusing on agriculture as a way of boosting the economy and reducing hunger. And it's also saying that the approved infrastructure support fund for states will improve rural roads to aid transportation of farm produce. You see, attention again being focused on agriculture. So rather than spend all of the money coming into the kitty or the federation account, that last time they decided what came in was 1.55 trillion, but they decided in sharing 907 billion. For obvious reasons, if you push all of that money into the system, it can worsen inflation. But they saw the need in these difficult times to set aside more than half of that money for as savings into the infrastructure fund. So what some of us have argued about was that, look, all of this money going into subsidy payment with some people stealing it can actually help us improve infrastructure and even stop us from borrowing loans, from taking loans for virtually everything. So no one will say that at the end of the day, we are not getting anything from subsidy removal.
Nice.
1 trillion in 2 months is significant.
Nice program, nice agenda.
Yeah.
But a lot of Nigeria will talk about is not the absence of this program in time past. That they talked about implementation. That man selling pure water, that woman selling pure water can get the promised 50,000 naira. Implementation is where the devil is.
I think there is a slight paradigm shift from what we used to have in the past. You know, at a point, the CBN started behaving like a commercial bank, handling
anchor borrowers
and all that. The former CBN governor said between 2015 and 2023, the CBN disbursed 1.09 trillion. And in the first 2 months of 2023, 12.something billion was disbursed. You ask yourself, where is this money? And he said the rice growers gave him 100 million naira to buy the APC form. What is that not kickback? So in terms
of
I've read what the president is saying, that they are going to work with states. They are going to work with local governments. And I think that is a fundamental shift from what we have had in the past. A situation where everything is centralized, in the hands of the CBN, there is no way it will not be subject to politicization, manipulation, corruption, and also corruption. So we need to decentralize the process. And then there's a need for strong monitoring mechanism to ensure that...
We're talking about how to implement this.
Yes. Like I was saying that there is a need for fundamental, change in the mechanism of implementation. Because what we saw in the past years, was that the funds are just going to private hands. I was part of the Anko Bura scheme. They even asked us to pay some money. They wanted to give us land in Ogun State. Up till now, we didn't get a dime. They started paying some money to people that, have you received 140,000 naira? The money will come to your account, they will deduct it for fertilizer. So it was a big, huge fraud.
Yes.
And that's why I'm happy that they have appointed investigator to look at the CBN operations. I hope these are the issues that they will uncover. So if the new government is going to work with states and local government, that is a total change from what many governors didn't know how that Anko Bura was implemented. And these are state governors elected by their own people. They didn't work with a lot of associations, and there was no commodity board to control prices. Unlike now, the president is talking about having a commodity board that can,
Wale, what some people even told me about this very useless anchor borrowers program. People formed fake cooperatives to access the funds. At the end of the day, they didn't pay back.
A lot
anchor
of
borrowers, in terms of payment
return
of the loan, is one of the most
monumental
useless programs that has come out of Nigeria.
Monumental failure.
Even the CBN governor himself came out, the former CBN governor, the worst CBN governor in Nigerian history. He came out to say, look, people are refusing to pay. How come you had the same people punish banks for unsecured loans and all that? Yet, under your nose, you came up with a program for which people were not even paying back because you were scammed. And they couldn't confront some of these people because they were, the people behind them were big politicians. Forming fake cooperatives just for the purpose of accessing the people that this thing was meant for. It didn't get to them. And we had situations in which they would go and bring rice paddy from outside Nigeria and go to Abuja and build fake pyramids and say this is the result of our rice program. Absolute rubbish. Fake pyramid being erected, the size of those Egyptian pyramids. But what we had were actually rice rebagged. Rebagged. Just fooling Nigerians and frittering away our money. What we want to see is accountability.
Yes, the same thing with
the structure. You know, the white people know us very well. When they were going to release the Abacha fund, they said civil society organizations must be
monitored.
To monitor.
Monitor them.
Yes.
And what did we do? No one can say that the Abacha loot was not put to good use because the road projects were clearly spelled out. Lagos-Badon Expressway,
second Niger Bridge,
the Abuja-Kaduna-Kano dual carriageway. In fact, that Abuja-Kaduna was the biggest project of all because they literally rebuilt the road. Some places where they had bridges, they removed bridges, rebuilt. You know, so
the money worked.
Those people knew that we are notorious.
So before they could give us our money back, they said, "What do you want to do with
conditions.
it?"
You could say you are giving us conditions over our money. It's because they know us. They know who we are.
So this one must be followed strictly.
If they don't,
implemented to the letter.
Somebody has been telling me that look, these banks are amongst the most notorious business groups in our country. Very, very notorious.
They handed over their dollar to us.
What they do with the dollar thing, when they came out and said, oh, we are sacking we are sacking Bureau de Change, we are giving everything to bank.
So bank will now...
What is led to? What has it led to?
Call a book.
Fatter profits by the banks. Because a lot of this money, they did not give to people. They created artificial dollar scarcity because this thing was meant in a week, you just share like $120 million to people who will not give it out. To make money, they will simply call their own, when you say you need money, there's a bank, one day we will expose them here. When you go there, you say you need money, they will simply direct you to the aboki who is outside. Where in the world does that happen? And you want the government policy to succeed? It can't succeed. There are saboteurs, too many saboteurs in this system.
You know, the former CBN governor said the first 2 months of 2023, they disbursed 12.65 billion. At a time that there were policies that people could not even access money from banks, you are disbursing 12.65 billion. February and January, and this year. How come that you expect us to believe that kind of...
If the rice prices didn't come down, that is the first indication that the policy was a total sham, was a total failure. When you come up with this kind of policies that you invest so much money, you expect it to impact on food prices. If cassava, rice, and all that you said they should plant, if the prices continue to go up, that should tell you that your policy has failed. And then you'll be gallivanting all over the place, threatening an ordinary bureau de change analyst that you are ready to fight. What punch do you pack that you can threaten to fight someone? Are you Yokozuna or Kogan? I mean, these people, they've just messed up the economy, and it is clear now. Look at, we are suffering the ill effects of bad management of our economy. The ill effect, we have to tell ourselves the truth. And if the new government goes along the same line, we will not achieve anything. So the implementation is what will account for the success of this thing. Everyone is talking about it. We can't keep quiet. And we have been encouraged by the fact that some of the things that we even ask the government to do, they are doing it. We told them, buy cars, buy buses. Buses instead of simply distribute
at least people can see those buses physically.
Yes, 3,000 buses, at least it will go a long way. And they will have been converted to CNG-fired engines, which means that the cost of running them will go down significantly. And because it will go down, you have no reason to charge exorbitant fares.
It will have direct impact on the people, no doubt.
Wale Adeoye, for time is fast spent. Thank you. And the master himself, Babajide Kolade Otutoju.
Thank you, Jerry.
Thank you. And that's our offering today. Join us tomorrow for another episode of the program. You can watch the repeat broadcast tonight at 11 p.m. Join us this Sunday from 1:30 to 3:30 p.m. for Journalist Hangout on Sunday. We're on YouTube, youtube.com/TVC News Nigeria. I'm Ayodele Osubaku. See you tomorrow.